and welcome back to Lifestyle Management, and we're doing Chapter 5, Personal Nutrition. Okay, as you're likely aware, eating well helps us live and feel well. Helps us live and feel well. In addition, it fuels us to perform better in our challenges that exist in every day, whether those challenges are physical activities, hobbies, and certainly including our academic experiences. Many college and university students, particularly first-year students, are concerned about weight gain, and it's known as the freshman 15, meaning a 15-pound weight gain in the first year for freshmen. Healthy eating represents one of the most important means of facing the challenges head on. Insight into new Canada's food guide, we have a new one, a newer, will enable you to have the most recent information on nutrition guidelines in Canada. Now, I will have posted the Canada Food Guide in week 3, I think is where I will put it. Okay. In part 2, we're going to review and be looking at nutritional labels, which can help guide our food choices and what are essential parts of a healthy eating plan. So how we follow Canada's food guide is being part of part 1. So let's begin exploring these topics. So what do you need to know about nutrients? Well, every day our body needs six essential nutrients that our body cannot manufacture on its own. If it can't manufacture this stuff on its own, then if it can't do that, then that means we are contributing to what goes on into our body to top it off and to help it meet all of the basic requirements to live our daily lives. So there are 6 essential nutrients, and here's what they are. These are ones that we do not produce on our own. Water, protein, carbohydrates, fats, minerals, and vitamins. That makes 6. You might have noted that I mentioned fats. Yes, fats are essential. All right, let's start with water. As you're probably aware, our bodies are made up of about 60% of water, and it's essential for health and survival. We need energy to live, and we need to receive our energy from carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Based on what we eat, how much of these do we get and not get? The proper amounts or too much and of others can really offset our health. Water and these additional 3 nutrients, essential nutrients, are called macronutrients. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are macronutrients because they are the nutrients required by our body in the greatest amount. Thus the term macro. With macronutrients, we measure these by terms that you're very familiar with, calories. Now the other 2 essential nutrients, and we'll call these micronutrients. And guess what? They need fewer. Our body needs fewer of these, and that's why they are micro. An individual's need for macronutrients depends on how much energy he or she is expending. At the bottom of the first page of the chapter are acceptable macronutrient distribution range, and it will give you some insights on that. Let's begin by looking at what these needs for food are in our bodies. We're going to then begin with water. Water, as mentioned earlier, is about 60% of our body by weight is made up of water. But are you aware that water makes up 85% of our blood, 70% of our muscles, and 75% of our brain? Water performs an essential function. What's really interesting when you think in terms of our brain, you've probably, or perhaps you've seen images of brains, and they sit there on a plate or on a table and they hold their shape and they're gray. But that's not a fresh brain. That's a preserved brain. If you were to pop your lid and remove your brain and drop it on the floor, it would basically splatter like pudding because 75% of your brain is water. The rest is largely fat. Of course, neurons and such, but yes. So it's why when you go out drinking at night and in the morning you have a headache, the headache is your brain shouting at you. I'm short of water. Sure, you took a load of alcohol in, but alcohol is a diuretic. It pushes the water out pretty quickly. That's why you pee a lot when you go drinking. So when your body's low on water, you get a headache. Your brain's saying, fill me with some water. Water carries nutrients. It maintains our temperature. It lubricates joints, helps with our digestion, and rids the body of waste through urine, and contributes to the production of sweat, which when it evaporates from our skin, it cools our body. We lose about 2 to 2.5 liters of water a day through perspiration, urination, bowel movements, and normal everyday exhalation. Yes, just exhaling. If you were to exhale on a window or a mirror, you'd see condensation. There's the water leaving our body. To ensure adequate water intake, women should be drinking a minimum of 2.2 liters of water, and men should be drinking a minimum of 3 liters of water. As you know, we can survive a week without food and water. We cannot survive long, maybe 2-3 days at most, without water. As mentioned earlier, the measure of the amount of energy that could be derived from food is known as calories. How many calories do you need? Well, the EER, or the estimated energy requirement, depends on our sex, your age, your body frame, size, weight, height, percentage of body fat. The basal metabolic requirements, or the BMR, measures the number of calories needed to sustain body at rest. Your activity level, Health Canada suggests that we also calculate the amount of calories that we need by our activity levels. So whether you're sedentary, moderate, or high energy level, the energy needed for the expected activity level is what's important. Okay, next on our list of important things is proteins. Proteins form the basic framework of our muscles, bones, blood, hair, fingerprints. If you're doing any additional work in the course of your day through exercise, protein is an important basic element to build strong muscles and bones. Complete proteins, and I'm going to bring this up in a minute. Animal proteins, meat, fish, poultry, dairy products, these provide 8 essential amino acids. Now, I had mentioned complete protein because there are also incomplete proteins. This is important to know. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, you combine matching paired amino acids in food that when they're paired together, they create a complete protein. So if you're not getting your protein from meats or animal, you can get them by putting amino acids together. Grain, beans, and nuts are incomplete proteins, so by matching So by matching these up, they become complete. That completes them as a complete protein. They create a full protein. Incomplete protein may have relatively low levels of one or two essential acids, but they may have fairly high levels of others. Combining these incomplete proteins ensures that the body gets sufficient amount of what is sometimes called complementary proteins. There are perhaps surprisingly quite a few vegan or vegetarian elite athletes. They deliberately ensure they are getting complementary and full proteins by matching amino acids. Based on the latest data, the recommended level of protein intake for adults is 0.8 of a gram per kilogram of weight. Take your weight in kilograms, multiply it by 0.8. This will give you, in grams, the amount of protein you should be taking on a daily basis. All right, let's move on to the third important group of carbohydrates. Now, this is a tricky one. These are organic compounds that provide our brain and our bodies with glucose. Now, glucose is a form of sugar, and we'll have to get into this a little bit, and that's the basic fuel that our body uses. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Carbohydrates are classified according to the number and the type of simple sugar units present. Okay? Now there's some suffixes that are having a Greek origin. So for example, mono, well, that means single or one. Di, D-I, means two. Poly means multiple or many. So let's look at how this applies to carbohydrates. Monosaccharides are simple sugars. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. One simple sugar unit. So that's like glucose, fructose, galactose. Now, we'll revisit this throughout. Disaccharides, these contain two sugars, and they're linked with a chemical bond. Sucrose, as an example, lactose, maltose, or table sugar. And then polysaccharides, many. These are complex carbohydrates. They contain more than 10 units of sugar, starches, and glycogen. Fiber and starches are classified as complex carbohydrates. So let's look a little closer at simple and complex carbohydrates. You might be thinking, and on the one hand, well, simple sugars. That should mean it's simple. It's easy for our bodies. However, in fact, complex carbohydrates are more desirable. The current recommendations are that most adults need to consume at least 135 to 180 grams of carbohydrates per day. Simple carbohydrates, these include natural sugars that are in milk and fruits, lactose and fructose, and also include the added sugars that you find in candies, soft drinks, and pastries. So there's your hint. Simple carbohydrates are not as good for you because they are manufactured. And they're not easy for our bodies to break down or use. All right, and complex carbohydrates. Well, these are the foundation of a more healthy eating and includes grains, cereals, not breakfast cereals like Count Chocula or something, or fruity, what do you call them, Fruity Flakes or fruity things. No, not those kinds of cereals. These are grains as cereals. Several health organizations have recommended that Canadians increase the consumption of whole grain foods. That way, our bodies get the kinds of glucose that it needs to turn into fuel. that allows us to use it to run and fuel our bodies for activities. Let's now look at fiber. So fiber, in what you need to know about nutrients, fiber, which is included as dietary fiber, functional fiber, in order to create what's known as total fiber. There are two ways to describe fiber. It's either soluble or insoluble. Let's look at that. Soluble just means absorbs water. It creates a gel to capture nutrients like glucose. It is this that makes us feel full. Oatmeal, fruits and veg like strawberries, oranges, apples, legumes, leafy greens, these are all fitting into the soluble. The insoluble, these cling to water and help prevent constipation and diverticulosis or inflamed bowel. There are three main insoluble fibers: cellulose, lignin, and hemicellulose. So these are things that we should probably avoid. The recommended daily intake of fiber is about 38 grams for men and 25 grams for women. As we age and get older, like over 50, that drops to about 30 for men and 21 for women. The glycemic index, or the GI, is a measurement of how much carbohydrate-containing food is likely to raise your blood sugar. Studies have found that low glycemic index foods have health benefits such as the prevention of type 2 diabetes, the control of blood sugar levels, and control of blood sugar and blood cholesterol levels. And those are three very important, they're probably things you have heard of before. Lowering blood cholesterol is good for us, lowering our blood sugar is good for us, and avoiding type 2 diabetes. These are things that we can control, and that's a good thing. All right, now we're going to look at this trickier one. This is one that we're going to look at as fats, aka lipids. Fats are a bit of a misnomer. Fats in and of themselves aren't all bad, but there are different types of fat, like there are different types of carbohydrates. One of the things that fat does is it carries fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Aids in the absorption of foods into our intestine. It protects organs from injury and regulates body temperature and plays an important role in growth and development. As I mentioned, there are more than one form of fat. There's saturated fat, there's cholesterol, and there's unsaturated fat. And again, we're going to look at these individually. Saturated fats. Now, these are fats with hydrogen atoms. Animal fats are saturated fats that are usually solid at room temperature. Any fat that's soluble at room temperature is considered a saturated fat. If you've put an unfrozen stick of butter, you can at room temperature squeeze the butter in your hands. It's fat, and it's solid at room temperature. When you heat it up, it goes to liquid. Cholesterol, that's a form of fat that's manufactured by our bodies and circulates in our blood. Cholesterol is made up of high-density lipoproteins, HDLs, low-density lipoproteins, and very low-density lipoproteins. Now, the high-density lipoproteins are considered good cholesterol. They help move cholesterol to the liver for metabolism and elimination out of the body, including some of the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. The buildup of any LDL, or the low-density lipoprotein, is known as plaque. And this is what can line our arteries and restrict blood flow increases the risk of stroke, heart attack. Interestingly, exercise can increase our production of good cholesterol, the HDL, high density lipoprotein. The third fat we're going to look at is unsaturated fats. These are fats that have more than one double bond saturated carbon in the molecule and are likely to be liquid at room temperature. Unsaturated fats come in two forms: monosaturated and polysaturated. Monosaturated, these have been shown to be helpful at improving blood cholesterol levels. Peanuts and olive oil are two prime sources of this monosaturated. The polysaturated, these include omega-3 acids in deep water fish like salmon and in flaxseed and walnuts, and may help lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. Omega-6 fatty acids help lower LDL, that's the bad cholesterol, and may also lower HDL, which is the good cholesterol. Therefore, careful with these. They are found in sunflower seeds, safflower oil, and corn. There's a process that's called hydrogenation, and you'll find this in some products that you might purchase, where hydrogenation creates unsaturated fatty acids called trans fatty acids. Now this is, I should be emphasizing, there is no safe level of trans fatty acids, which occur naturally in meats as well as in foods prepared partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. Watch out for that in the labels. You'll find it largely in margarine, baked goods, and fried foods. Again, your tip as to why it's not that good. So how much fat is okay? Well, there are levels of okay amounts of fat. The recommended range for fat intake is 25 to 35% of the total calories that you take in on a 2,000 calorie intake. Now, 2,000 calories is not too low, and it's not too high. You want to try to keep your fat calories from saturated fat and trans fat below 10% of your daily intake. There's a table in this chapter of table 5.2. It lists all the major sources of various fatty acids. Some good sources of fat include grapeseed oil, olive oil, and avocado oil. All right. Let's now look at eating for good health. Canada suggests that you follow Eating Well with Canada's Food Guide. There are several translated versions of the food guide available on the web. And the web address, I think I have it on in behind me here. So what I want you to do is go check in week 3, and I've put the Canada Food Guide there for you. In it, we'll look at what we're going to talk about. So, for example, what is a serving size? How do you know what portions that we're supposed to eat? What are the types of food that we're supposed to eat? The Canada's Food Guide has gone through several iterations from its beginning in 1942. The most recent edition is from 2019 and is scientifically based. The most noticeable change is in the image. It had been a rainbow graphic, and now it's a plate divided into 3, with vegetable and fruit filling up half the plate, and protein and grains each filling up a quarter of a plate. You may also notice here there's no there's no recommended daily servings. Health Canada has also made some recommendations with this food guideline, mindful eating. Pay attention to what you eat, how you felt. Cook more often. Avoid processed foods. Shop and cook for yourself more often. You control what goes in your body. Enjoy your food with friends, family, traditions, celebrations, recipe planning, garden for food. Eat with others. It's related to the last one, and it can be, however, it could be that you make some effort, but maybe 1 or 2 times a week, remembering. To remember, marketing is a big business. Critically, think your way through a grocery store. Read labels. Check for salt, sugar, and fat. Stick to your plan. In case you have not noticed, grocery stores are generally all set up in the same manner. Fresh fruit and veg protein are on the perimeter of the store. Choose lower fat foods, more enriched products more often. It's not saying that you have to give up all other foods or that they aren't good for us at all. It just means balance. In fact, balance towards healthy food. So let's begin with looking at fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables, well, they provide crucial vitamins such as vitamin A and vitamin C and minerals like iron and magnesium. Crucifers, these are vegetables like winter squash, carrots, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. They're high in fiber, rich in vitamins, and excellent source of indoles. Indoles, these are chemicals that help lower cancer risks. Fruits are excellent sources of vitamins, minerals, and fibers, along with vegetables may protect us against certain cancers. Check your text for the recommended suggestions to add more fruit and veg to your diet. All right, now for protein. Protein can be either plant-based, meat, milk, and dairy products. The new 2019 Canada's Food Guide recommends that we choose plant-based protein, has additional fiber, lower saturated fats, and heart health benefits. Plant-based protein can be found in soybean, cooked peas, cooked black beans, broccoli, corn, kale, spinach, and lentils. All can contribute to great soups, stews, and chilies. Other useful recommendations regarding protein include to choose the leanest meats and either broil or roast the meat. That way the fat drips out and are away from the meat. If you're going to be cooking meat, trim the visible fat off. Cook food and stews where you boil the meat first or make soup stock. That way you're adding meats and vegetables, boiling and simmering them for several hours, and then taking those elements out, preserving the meat, and then put back into the soup later. Take the stock out, put it in a refrigerator, leave it overnight. In the morning, the fat will congeal on the top. You can scoop it off and make your stock much more fat-free. Do watch out for processed chicken and turkey products, which, since they're processed, the producer wants to make sure they're tasty and look really good. So they're often higher in fat and has much as 45 to 90% added fat. Always check food labels for the fat, salt, and sugar. All right, next, let's start looking at grain products. We can get this from bread, some whole grain cereals like oats and quinoa, rice, brown and wild rice, and whole grain pasta. Whole grain kernels are made up of 3 parts. The bran, that's the outer shell. That's the hard outer shell. It contains fiber and minerals. The endosperm, this is the middle part of the grain. And then the germ, and this is the inner part, right in the inner small part, and it has It has vitamins, minerals, proteins, and other plant compounds. Any product containing these three is whole grain. Includes flours and cereals. Refined grains, they're missing the bran and the germ. So they're missing the good parts of the grain and only putting in the stuff that's really doesn't have anything value in it. And they're linked to obesity and inflammation. So what about portion size then? So are these guides for this in the Canada Food Guide? Well, the short answer is yes. However, not how it has been addressed in the past. This newer Canada's Food Guide makes a distinction between portion size. This represents how much food you eat at one time. And serving size. This is the amount of food listed on the product's food label. Just check out the portion distortion. You see that behind me? Portion distortion, this image beside me is just indicating how over the last 20 years, look at how things have grown and therefore why there might be an issue of obesity, overweight issues in Canada. Nutritional supplements are next. Vitamins and minerals are necessary for good health, and many are gained in the food we eat, and some can be from nutritional supplements. In Canada, prior to January 1st, 2004, the National Health Products, the NHP, were defined as vitamins, minerals, herbal remedies, homeopathic medicines, traditional medicines, probiotics, and other products like amino acids and essential fatty acids were sold either food and drug under the Food and Drug Act and regulations, as there is no other category to classify health products such as vitamins and minerals. After that date, all natural health products such as vitamins and minerals must have a special product license before they are sold. Facilities that manufacture, package, and label and import these products must also have site licenses. Therefore, make sure you check to ensure for your own health and safety. Vitamins and minerals. Vitamins help put proteins, fats, and carbohydrates to use and are essential to regulating growth, maintaining tissue, releasing energy from foods. Our body does produce some vitamins, such as vitamin D. The other vitamins must be ingested. Now, some of these vitamins are fat soluble. Vitamin A, vitamin D, E, and K. Fat soluble means that these vitamins are absorbed into the body via our intestinal membrane. Some are water soluble, vitamin B and C. Water soluble are vitamins that are absorbed directly into our bloodstream, where it's used or eliminated. Basically, if you eat a well-balanced diet and spend time out in the sunshine daily, most of our vitamin and mineral needs are covered. Check table 5.3 and 5.4 for a key information on vitamins. Calcium, sodium, and iron are three minerals that need special attention, so we're going to touch on them here. Calcium. We must have a lot of calcium in our body as it builds strong bones, and it's important for to assist in blood clotting and muscle and nerve functioning. Sodium, interestingly, it helps in maintaining proper fluid balance, to regulate blood pressure, contribute to transmission of muscle impulses, and to relax the muscles. Now, this is a touchy mineral for its benefits. However, it also has risks when we have too much sodium. And then iron. This mineral is not easy to get enough of. Not getting enough iron, though, can result in anemia. This is gained from red meat, fish, poultry, eggs, legumes, and dried fruit. Now, there are a couple of other substances in food that we should also be aware of. And one that's really important and is antioxidants. These are substances that prevent the harmful substances that prevent harmful effect caused by oxidation within the body. They include vitamin C, vitamin E, and beta carotene. This is a form of vitamin C, as well as compounds like carotenoids and flavonoids. Diets high in antioxidant-rich fruits and vegetables have been linked to lower rates of esophageal, lung, colon, and stomach cancers. Phytochemicals is the second important substance in foods that we eat. Phytochemicals are compounds that exist naturally in plants and serve many functions, such as helping a plant protect itself from bacteria and disease. Its application in human diets are associated with reduced risks of heart disease and certain cancers, age-related macular degeneration, adult onset diabetes, stroke, and other diseases. It has benefits, however. The research has yet to show a cause and effect relationship between consumption of phytochemicals and the prevention of specific diseases. This can remind us we have to keep an eye very closely on claims. What are investigated and what cause and effect claims are there in fact? Now we'll touch on what are known as dietary reference intakes, or DRIs. These have been much researched into nutrition and recommendations for intake by both Canada and the United States. It's important to note that the DRIs are standards for apparently healthy people and are not meant to be applied to anyone with an acute or chronic disease. Okay? Dietary reference intakes is a sort of an umbrella term that's used to describe 5 types of reference values. Now I'm going to go through these. However, if you're going to find these, you will find these in your text with more detail as the definitions. And we're going to start with the first. Estimated Average Requirement, EAR. 2 is the Recommended Dietary Allowance, the RDA. 3, Adequate Intake Levels, the AL. 4, Tolerable Upper Intake Levels, UL. And then 5, Acceptable Macronutrient Distribution Range, the AMDR. Now, these are different ways of measuring our dietary intakes, and nutritionalists have access to this and would be able to give you more information to help develop a plan. So there we are. Part 1 of personal nutrition is complete. There's a lot there. We've gone through an overview of the Canada Food Guide requirements, but Part 2, also in this week 3, we'll be covering how to read food labels, look at different food styles and diets, and food safety issues. So good luck, everybody. We'll see you in Part 2 in the next video. Bye-bye.